Madam Clerk, can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Mayor Chatterley.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Honeyfield. Commissioner Schuster.
Present.
Commissioner Campbell.
Here.
And Commissioner Hoger.
Here. Thank you. Will you all please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'd like to welcome all our visitors tonight. Our next regular commission meeting will be Tuesday, April 28th, 2026 at 6 p.m. We have a few proclamations tonight. Our first proclamation is National Telecommunicators Week, April 12th through the 18th, 2026. Mayor Pro Tem Honeyfield.
All right, whereas emergencies can occur at any time that require police, fire, or emergency medical services, and whereas when an emergency occurs, the prompt response of emergency services is critical to the protection of life and preservation of property, and whereas the safety of our police officers and firefighters is dependent upon the quality and accuracy of information obtained from citizens who telephone the City of Raton Dispatch Center, and whereas public safety telecommunicators are the first and most critical contact our citizens have with emergency services, and whereas public safety telecommunicators are the single vital link for our police officers and firefighters by monitoring their activities by radio, providing them information, and ensuring their safety. And whereas the City of Raton telecommunicators have contributed substantially to the apprehension of criminals, suppression of fires, and treatment of patients. And whereas each dispatcher has exhibited compassion, understanding, and professionalism during the performance of their job in the past year. Now, therefore, I, Mark Honeyfield, on behalf of Lori Chatterley, Mayor of the City of Raton, New Mexico, do hereby proclaim the week of April 12th through April 18th, 2026, National Telecommunicators Week. In the City of Raton, in honor of our telecommunicators, whose diligence and professionalism keep our city and citizens safe. In witness hereof, I have heretofore set my hand and seal and caused the seal of the City of Raton to be affixed this 14th day of April, 2026. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Our next proclamation is National Library Week, April 19th through the 25th, 2026. Commissioner Hoger.
Whereas libraries offer the opportunity for everyone to connect with others, learn new skills, and pursue their passions no matter where they are on life's journey, and whereas libraries have long served as trusted institutions, striving to ensure equitable access to information and services for all members of the community, regardless of race, ethnicity, creed, ability, or socioeconomic status. And whereas libraries adapt to the ever-changing needs of their communities, developing and expanding collections, programs, and services that are as diverse as the population they serve, and whereas libraries are accessible and inclusive places that promote a sense of local connection, advancing understanding, civic engagement, and shared community goals. And whereas libraries are treasured institutions that preserve our collective heritage and knowledge, safeguarding both physical and digital resources for present and future generations. And whereas libraries are an essential public good and fundamental institutions in working to improve society, protect the right to education and literacy, and promote the free exchange of information and ideas for all. Whereas libraries, librarians, and library workers are joining library supporters and advocates across the nation to celebrate National Library Week. Now therefore do I, Commissioner Sally Hoger, on behalf of Lori Chatterley, Mayor of the City of Raton, New Mexico, hereby proclaim April 19th through 25th, 2026 as National Library Week, and encourage all citizens to visit the library and celebrate the adventures and opportunities that unlock for us every day. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and seal and caused the seal of the City of Raton to be affixed this 14th day of April 2026. Thanks, Rob.
Thank you. Thank you. Our next proclamation is National Child Abuse Prevention Month, April 2026. Proclamation, National Child Abuse Prevention Month, April 2026. Whereas April is National Child Abuse Prevention Month, CAPM, it is a time to highlight the importance of families and communities working together to prevent child abuse and neglect. And whereas children are vital to our city's future success, prosperity, and quality of life, as well as being our most vulnerable assets. And whereas all children deserve to have the safe, stable, nurturing homes and communities they need to foster their healthy growth and development. And whereas child abuse and neglect is a community responsibility affecting both the current and future quality of life of a community. And whereas communities that provide parents with the social support, knowledge of parenting and child development, and concrete resources they need to cope with stress and nurture their children to ensure all children grow to their full potential. And whereas the City of Raton and Youth Heartline partner together to provide preventative services to the children and families of Raton. Now therefore do I, Lori Chatterley, Mayor of the City of Raton, New Mexico, do hereby proclaim the week of April 13th through the 17th, 2026 as Youth Heartline Child Abuse Prevention Week, and urge all citizens in the City of Raton to participate in the following free events to promote family connection, build the community, and prevent child abuse. Show Your Blue campaign. Wear blue to show your support and email pictures to rsesv@youthheartline.org or send them to 575-999-5489. Pictures will be posted on Facebook for a chance to win a grand prize for an individual and a business. National Show Your Blue Day. Wear blue to show your support and classic night at the movies. Bring your family to watch Shazam at the Schuler Theater on April 30th at 6 p.m. The witness whereof I have hereto set my hand and seal and cause the seal of the City of Raton to be affixed this 14th day of April 2026. You hope someone in your group. You're right there. They made it. Oh, nice. You guys got your nice shirts on. Yep. Thank you, ladies. Appreciate all that you do. Thank you. Okay, we're going to take a moment for a fire briefing from Mr. Phillips.
So, as most of you are aware, we have a fire burning in our watershed currently. It has been named the Swatime Fire in relation to the perennial streams that run into Lake Dorothy. The fire transitioned to a Type 2 incident managed by Colorado Fire at midnight last night. At the noon briefing, we were at approximately 800 acres. Fire began Sunday afternoon with the first report coming around 2 p.m. Raton Fire and Emergency Services have been there for the duration of it. It was originally managed out of the Honey Fire District before this transition. It is mostly at this point in previous burn scars from the track fire as well as the last East Fork fire. Obviously, a pretty windy day today, so a lot could have happened between noon and now. You know, the city would like to extend our heartfelt appreciation to the pilots and the firefighters out there, and for Chief Burke and his crew for all that they're doing for us up there. Dangerous times, really early in the year for a fire, but the bright side is that they have air resources that were here available early. We've got 2 Type 1 helicopters. Yesterday we had 2 Type 1 aircraft, a couple of Type 2 aircraft, and a Type 2 helicopter, and several hand crews from throughout Colorado. So they're doing the best they can. It looked really good this morning, but I think it's kind of gone a little south since then. They feel good about their prospects of managing this fire. We've got retardant lines and bulldozer lines on a lot of sides of this thing, but you're only as good as a wind-blown ember across a bulldozer line from going south. So, you know, our thoughts, prayers with everyone up there, but we're at 800 acres, which sounds like a small fire, but any fire in a watershed's a bad thing, so. There's a QR code on the counter. Commissioner Campbell, do we believe that that's safe to share publicly?
I think so.
I mean, it was at a briefing today. It includes maps. If you go down there, there's probably a lot of stuff that won't relate to anybody. They, as part of this Type 2 incident management team, they bring in a full show of people. They'll have a public information officer, daily briefings. That is still in its infancy and developing. You know, the Type 2 team took over at midnight last night, but that was with a single person. Their resources are all inbound, so we don't have a lot of great information, and I don't feel real comfortable sharing what little information we have. I hate to get the wrong message out when they put together a whole orchestrated effort of what's going to happen public information wise, but that's what we know and we're comfortable sharing at this point. So if anyone would like to get a copy of that, I've made at least 10 on the table. We can get more if you need them, but scan it with your phone. It'll give you acreage map, stuff like that. Located right now immediately to the east and north of Lake Dorothy and Lake Maloya. Not in a great spot, but it is what it is.
The park is closed at the visitor center.
Park is closed at Lake Alice right now. Everybody's redirected to but official folks that are looking to come through, primarily because of the helicopter operations that are dipping out of Lake Maloya. But what they're doing up there is pretty impressive. The air show yesterday, coordinating 6 aircraft in a space that small, was pretty amazing to watch. And luckily, since it's early in the year, we're the only fire I think going in either district. New Mexico State Forestry is here as our interface with the city of Raton. This fire has not officially crossed into New Mexico yet, but of course, state lines are not just invisible lines on a map when it comes to resources and who pays for what. But the state of New Mexico is well aware that if it were to cross in there, they have their resources set to bring to bear. You know, right now we're expecting minimal impacts to water quality if things stayed the way they were, but there are a lot of variables in this thing.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to item 5, items from citizens present. I will start with my blurb that I'm reading now, just to kind of make sure that everybody knows the ground rules. First, this is a business meeting of the City Commission. It is an open meeting, which means that everybody can observe and attend. However, public comment is limited to one area on the agenda, and it is a privilege that is not required under law, but we do like to have it. We choose to have it in our regular meetings. Second, public comment is not a time for a back and forth conversation. It's not a question-answer session. As I've stated in previous meetings, if you're looking for something like that, please approach us directly. All our contact information is out in the hallway next to the desk and on our website. Third, anyone wishing to speak in this meeting must be recognized by the meeting chair, which is myself. Fourth, any cheering, clapping, jeering, side comments, or interruptions would be inappropriate. Fifth, comments should be made from the podium and made to the commission ourselves. And please make sure you've signed in today, particularly if you're here for public comment. And we ask that you state your full name when you begin your comments. And lastly, I do not tolerate profane remarks, so I really appreciate civil behavior. Thank you. We will take 3 minutes, up to 3 minutes for each speaker.
And please, if you're in a big group, consolidate down to 2 or 3 speakers. And we'll take approximately 15 minutes if we need it. So I'll stop around 6:30 so we can move on to the business portion of our meeting. And with that, I open the floor to items from citizens present.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Bridget Federhoff. I'd like to discuss technological parasites, specifically AI data centers and the significant documented damage to the environment and local communities caused through water depletion, excessive energy consumption, and waste generation. In 2023, data centers consumed an estimated 17.5 billion gallons of water, some single operations using 5 million gallons daily. Draining of local aquifers, threatening drinking water, and affecting agricultural resources. It leaves a massive carbon footprint. It requires a tremendous amount of energy to run, often using fossil fuels. One large model can release 600,000 pounds of carbon dioxide, which is equivalent to 5 times the lifetime emissions of one average car. The massive e-waste that we create due to the short lifespan of the hardware used to run data centers, often containing toxic substances, and the mining for rare minerals used in the data center operation, thereby causing erosion and water pollution. It is a danger to public health by creating noise pollution. Data centers emit constant noise, humming, and vibrations. This may cause residents, veterans, PTSD survivors, mental health patients, and animals to experience stress and sleep reductions. Finally, the last message. There's a 3-phase data center deal in the works, proposing 50 megawatts total usage at completion. Phase 1 starts with Kmart, continues on to the RPS plant, lastly the airport. All of this for 14 milliseconds of internet speed. Is it worth it to you?
No.
Thank you.
The floor is still open if somebody.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Commissioners and Mr. Phillips and Mr. Heel. I have just a brief statement, and I did print it out, so I will give each of you a copy.
Would you mind stating your name for us?
My apologies, Roseanne Boyette. So I'm asking that the Commissioners consider the following. About the infrastructure, the AI industry presentations promise an increase in property tax revenues, and these proposals do not require expensive infrastructure upgrades. The companies emphasize that the city will not need new housing developments for their employees, and there will be no increased demands on the local school system. Proposals often emphasize that utility providers welcome the steady demand on the upgraded electric grid. This allows the providers to meet the increase in consumer needs. Questions that I would like for you to consider. This is not, I'm not asking for an answer, just for your consideration. If this will be a closed system, this proposed hub, node, whatever the terminology we're using, if it's going to be a closed system, what happens to the contaminated water when it's no longer fit for use? Another question, if this site relies on backup generators, how will that affect air quality for city and county residents? And the third, how much will these backup generators increase noise pollution? The last point, and this is something I will look up on my own, but just the current zoning for the Kmart and the adjoining 45-acre property. So under considerations, one Cimarron resident recently commented, what happens in Raton affects everyone in the county: water supply, air quality, tourism, recreation. Data centers are adding massive amounts of energy that force utilities to increase production, according to AI industry officials. The increased use contributes to air pollution. The community and elected officials must decide if the proposed economic benefits are in our best long-term interest. Thank you for the opportunity to comment. If you would share these. Thank you.
It is so great to be back here. Thank you so much for opening up the floor to all of us. My name is Jenny Velarde, and I want to speak tonight about the two paths in front of us as Ratonians. We have a path of incredible opportunity and progress, and we have a path of the same old tired thing. And I will start with that first. As of this morning, I checked it so that I would be right on target for real time. There are 5,400 functioning data centers in our country, and it has been reported that there is an estimated 3,000 more slated for next year, so that puts us over 8,000 for 2027. And the reason why this is significant to us as Ratonians is because the proposal that has been given to us, the sales pitch, makes it seem as though if we say yes to this, we will be saying yes to becoming a technological hub of the future, that we are going to be trailblazers. And I would love to ask each of you, what industry do you know of where if you are the 8,000th person who is doing something, that you're the trailblazer? To put this into context, in 2 years, there will probably be around 13,000 data centers in our country. And right now, there are 13,000 McDonald's in our country. So for every data center, we'll have a McDonald's to match. Here is where the opportunity lies. Dolly Parton tells us that we can be a diamond in a rhinestone world, and by agreeing to this prospect, it makes us not just a rhinestone in a rhinestone world, but a rhinestone under 8,000 other rhinestones. But the towns that are rising up right now, unanimously, coming together with the residents and linking arms, are all of a sudden overnight becoming household names around this country. We have the opportunity. And what is so special about the opportunity is we can use it to become a leader for New Mexico, for the Southwest, for our country. And what is phenomenal about that is it serves everybody. I mean, imagine what that will do for our industries here in Raton. And imagine what that will do for our region. I think something that is really important for you as our local government, that we trust, we put our trust in your hands, is that, and I would love to know if anybody has different information on this, but I only know of one town in this country where it's unanimous amongst the local government, where every single person on the board agreed that they do not want data centers in their town. And I think we have the opportunity for you all to do that. Thank you.
I know what you're thinking. Good evening, Madam Mayor, Commissioners, Mr. Phillips, and Mr. Sagata, who I understand is virtual. Is Ms. Schuster around?
Commissioner Schuster's on the phone.
Okay, great. So last week, I put something on the Raton community page that after I pushed the button and thought about it for a while, I decided that it was not the right way to go about what I wanted to say. And what I did was I addressed something that I criticized the city commission and our interim city manager, Mr. Sagata. And I realized after the fact that what I should have done was present the information to you at least directly before I put something on the community page. So I do regret that, and I do apologize. I do stand by what I said in that message, and in case there's anyone here who's not aware of what I put, I'm going to read it out now.
When the Raton City Commission appointed former Mayor Neil Sagata as interim city manager a few months ago, Mr. Sagata said he did not want to be the permanent city manager. However, my understanding is that he has applied for the full-time position among about 10 applicants. The former mayor lost his election campaign when a majority of Raton citizens voted for someone else. Then the city commission basically promoted him to the higher-paid city manager position. It seems our city commission is not in touch with Raton voters, and it appears Mr. Sagata has now gone back on his word not to seek the permanent city manager position. Thank you.
Hello, good evening. Brian Cotter, CEO of Miners Colfax Medical Center. Madam Mayor, City Commissioners, Mr. Phillips, Ms. Trujillo, good to see you all. Just a couple of quick updates for the hospital. We have rolled out telemedicine in the clinic. It's going to be a slow rollout. We're just beginning to do that. And so we're going to be expanding telemedicine as an originating site for providers and also a distance site for providers. So we're just getting that out the door right now, getting it launched. So it's going to take some time to fully develop it, recruit providers, and look at the specialties that we want to see to be able to treat folks here in Raton where they don't have to drive 3 hours. Hopefully we can see folks locally in telemedicine. So that just got off the ground a couple of weeks ago, and it's going to take some time to really expand it, get the agreements and all of that. So really do want to expand the access for people, folks here in Raton. That's number one. We're also in the beginning stages of expanding our chronic care management platform that we have there. So it's a Medicare program where you have folks that have 2 or more chronic diseases, and that we can manage that throughout their appointment. So that's another program, Chronic Care Management, CCM. We're going to be partnering with a third party that can do it a lot better than we can, and we will benefit from it with better patient care. Okay, so and again, it's chronic care management. You think of COPD, you think of diabetes, you think of chronic kidney disease, things like that. So we want to take care of people in between their appointments, not just at their appointments, so be able to manage that care more effectively. Then also, I have been meeting with, and my team has been meeting with some of the local behavioral health providers, Pinwheel and, oh gosh, now I'm blanking on the name. Crossroads, thank you. So, both Pinwheel and Crossroads, and trying to, it helps me, edifying me a little bit on what their capabilities are and what their services are, but we want to have better coordination between the emergency department and the clinic for behavioral health, substance abuse, and things like that. So we've met with Crossroads and Pinwheel, and we have a mental health first aid training coming up as well through the state of New Mexico for folks at the hospital for people in key positions. So we are having an emphasis on behavioral health, substance abuse, and trying to coordinate care locally with the hospital, the emergency department, and the clinic. And we do have the mammograms coming up on April 23rd. And I think that's all I wanted to kind of give you guys an update. So we're always still trying to grow and improve access for care. So thank you very much. Thanks.
Yes. Hi, Ann Tice. I'm making an announcement on behalf of Albertone Media Works tonight. I'm excited to announce this year was our 5th year participating in the Film Prize Junior New Mexico film competition. And for a 2nd year in a row, the middle school category has won Best Virtual Audience Choice Award in New Mexico. So yeah, we have a mother of one of the filmmakers right here. So Adriana Esparza and Cameron Martinez were the sort of leads in that, along with Cristiana Piancino, David Valdez, and Hope Julianis. And so they did a spectacular job making this thriller, and Christiana also did a high school film, and that was not a thriller, it was a drama about graduating from high school. It's a really great short piece. But I wanted to invite everybody. We have booked the Schuler on May 8th, Friday, May 8th at 7 o'clock. so that we could do a local screening. And it's totally free and open to the public, so we would love everyone to come and show support to our young people. And I can't even tell you how many hours of hard work these guys put into this. We started this in September, and then we filmed, especially the thriller was at night in the behind my house on the mountain in the middle of winter, and it was amazing. And Cameron was the camera person, and they were running around filming this being chased, and it was amazing. So I really hope everyone shows up to show support. And we also invite, because we just have their films, we would also invite anyone else who'd like to show a short film. We will go ahead and screen it if they want to see it in the Schuler on the big screen. We'll air it. We'll have Jacob Jaramillo will also show a short film, and Mauricio Meneses will also show. But so we're open to other stuff if anybody else wants to show anything. So anyway, just invitation.
I did catch that film. It was pretty scary. They did a great job.
Oh, you watched it online?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Anyone else? And we're shorter on time. I'll take a few more minutes.
This is very short.
Okay.
It's probably out of left field. Hello, commissioners, city management, city clerk Desiree Trujillo. My name is Nicky Ibanez, and I'm here regarding the dog park in Raton that is listed online. The dog park is currently listed online as a dog-friendly public space through a Google business listing that appears to be associated with the city, based off my research. But the reality on the ground is very different. Locals know this. Our tourists, our visitors do not, that the ground itself is covered in goat heads or puncture-beam. So these birds are not a minor nuisance to dogs. They are sharp enough to puncture bicycle tires, and they regularly embed in dogs' paws. Veterinary guidance from our two major places in town will let you know that it's clear that they can cause puncture wounds, limping, infections, especially when they get lodged between toes or go unnoticed. That means that people are being directed to a space when they come into town, people that do not live here, that is actively unsafe for the animals that it is meant to serve. So right now, we have a public-facing listing online on the Google business page that presents this as a usable dog park, even though the conditions on the ground make it hazardous and defunct. Because this listing appears to be tied to a city-managed Google business account, which is why I'm directly addressing you, this becomes an issue of municipal responsibility. If the city is going to present and maintain that listing, then the space needs to either meet a basic standard of safety and usability for tourists, since we are a tourism-based economy, or we take the Google business page down as a city. So I'm asking the commission to address this directly at some point, ideally before tourist season starts for us as a town. Either bring the park up to a condition where it can safely function as a dog park, which historically, since the Rotary Club established this dog park next to the aquatic center, has been up to private volunteerism and charity, or they update the Google business page or absolutely just remove the listing so the public is not misled into bringing their animals into a harmful environment. If it's safe enough to list, it should be safe enough to use, which is so far not the case for the majority of locals that live in Raton, and based off vet and vet tech reports, is not the case for individuals that visit this city. So right now, if it is possible, and again, I'm bringing this up to the commission because it seems to be based off a Google account that is associated with the city or city hall itself, I'm asking officially for the Google business page for the dog park adjacent to the aquatic center to be taken offline so that there are no more dogs that experience injuries to their paws from it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to go ahead and move on to the business portion of our meeting. If anyone is looking for an escape, now is a great time.
Does that include all of us?
We all have to stay, no running away. Some days it includes all of it.
Bye, guys, thank you.
Thank
See
you.
ya. Have a nice night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks. Thank you again. Thank you, Roseanne.
I just have to share.
Okay, we will be moving on to item 6, action items, etc. Item A, deliberate and act on approval of the March 24, 2026 regular meeting minutes and the March 31, 2026 special meeting minutes. Are there any corrections or amendments from the commission? If not, I would entertain a motion on the minutes. We can do them together. We can't close the doors, Ann. Sorry. And we can't close the doors. Open session, yeah. Sorry.
I move to approve the March 24th, 2026 regular meeting minutes and the March 31, 2026 special meeting minutes.
I have a motion and a second to approve both sets of minutes. Any further discussion? All in favor, vote by the sign of aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item B, deliberate and act on ratification of union contract between the City of Raton and Raton Police Officers Association, RPOA. Mr. Phillips?
Mayor and Commission, you have a copy of the RPOA and City of Raton agreement in front of you. This agreement has been ratified by RPOA. As you all are aware, we were in an unfortunate position of renegotiating this contract immediately preceding the county increasing gross receipts tax and raising salaries across the board. Although the negotiations are clearly in good faith, we understood going in that we cannot function as a police department with a significant pay gap between what a quote-unquote urban police officer is paid versus a more rural deputy. So we brought to you an agreement that reflects a salary compensation that, while not meeting the minimum $30 an hour threshold that Colfax County has put up there, it has got our officers close enough where they were willing to sign off on an agreement. The fact of the matter is that it will have significant budgetary impact, as police is already the largest portion of our general fund, and it will cause a ripple effect throughout this budget as we move forward. With that being said, the safety and security of this town is and always will be a priority of the administration. We believe we negotiated a contract that demonstrates our appreciation for the officers that continue to serve in an era that it's difficult to recruit police officers. And although it may have been possible to browbeat and receive a better deal, we believe it's fair and adequate compensation for the job we ask these people to do day in, day out. So I would personally recommend approval of the contract as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips. Comments or questions from the commission? I appreciate the work that you all have done on this and the negotiation here. I've been told that it went very smoothly, and the terms look very agreeable considering what we're up against with competing salaries in law enforcement.
I would agree. They were nothing but professional and respectful to our team and us to them. I mean, the downside of this is we will see morale hits throughout other departments, including mine. And unfortunately, this new pay scale in town will have impacts as we negotiate other contracts. We're fortunate that the UMWA, the IAFF, and the AFSCME agreements are not up for renewal this year, but I would anticipate a much tougher time on all three. Going forth, I believe there's a minimum salary set forth of $18, and that's for just entry-level kind of walk through the door credentials. That would be higher than I pay a CDL driver right now, so there's more pain to come in this thing.
Comments or questions from the
Just the only question I'd have is essentially that's pretty much the only substantial change is the wages portion of this contract from what was there before?
It is strictly financial based. There was the change in the base pay. There were adjustments for educational incentives. There was one minor change on instructional, like training officer type designation. And there was a modification made to the reopener provision of this contract by mutual consent. Other than that, the other 21 sections, or I think actually 31 sections of this contract are unaffected.
And it looks like this contract takes us through June 30th of 2029.
That is correct.
Does anyone have any questions about this contract or about, we did get that budget personnel schedule impact? Any questions for Mike Land on that? If not, I would entertain a motion.
I recommend approval of the agreement between the City of Raton and the Raton Police Officers Association.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second for item B, the ratification of union contract between the City of Raton and Raton Police Officers Association. Madam Clerk, could we have a roll call on this, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Mayor Chatterley?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Honeyfield?
Yes.
Commissioner Schuster?
Yeah.
Commissioner Campbell?
Yes.
And Commissioner Hoger?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Item C, public hearing discussion on City of Raton FY27 interim budget. Mr. Phillips.
I would gladly turn this over to Ms. Antonucci, but not that I'm one to be on the phone during the commission meeting, but our fire chief is sending me photographs of the main drainage in East Washheim, which is something that has been on Commissioner Campbell's and mine's greatly. And he says helicopters worked all day, major improvements, and the photo is way better than I could have hoped to envision. So maybe some of our previously stated concerns are going to not come to fruition, and we at least know that Chief Burke is in good condition and able to text. Sorry for the
No, thank you, Mr.
but I
Phillips.
promise to be plugged in at all times. So with that, I would turn over the budget discussion to Ms. Antonucci.
Good evening, Mayor and Commission. At our last commission meeting, we did kind of kick off our preliminary budget discussion. We don't really have anything new to present this evening. As the Deputy City Manager said, that the actual approval of the police and dispatch union contract helps me as I'm drafting the interim budget, so that at least I know, based on the information I provided you earlier, there is a budgetary impact that will impact the budget overall. So we will start working with those numbers. I did want to just mention that we do DFA's holding a budget training on Thursday, so I will be attending that virtually. And then also open enrollment for our new health insurance starts next week. It's actually been ongoing throughout the month, but we'll actually physically have agents here that will be helping employees kind of make those benefit elections. So there's a lot of changes this year, and we really want to work one-on-one with employees. We do have to accomplish all of this by April 27th. So that'll help me further with maybe not so much the interim budget, but the final budget. I'll know what those elections were for each employee, and then we'll have a better idea what the budgetary impact of the health insurance increase will be as well. So we did put this on the agenda this evening as a public hearing, so we typically have at least 2, possibly 3. So we want to open it up to the public to make comment. Then we'll try to incorporate that, and then also the commission. If you have comments this evening, I'll jot that information down to incorporate into the interim budget. And then we can talk a little bit about scheduling, I guess, a budget workshop. So that would be something else that we would need to, yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Antonucci. Sure. Are there any comments from the commission first before I open up to the public? Budget matters, concerns?
Michael, and just for general reference, the percentage of the city's total budget for salaries amounts to about what percentage?
80.
Salary plus benefits, probably just slightly less than 80%, 75 to 80%.
Would you guess then we'll see a bump of a few percent or something worse than that as we index salaries?
It's hard to say. I mean, it fluctuates just because, we have a lot of turnover in various departments, so that one's kind of constantly fluctuating.
There will no doubt be inflationary pressures on most of our employees. Are locked in contracts. They took front-loaded 10% raises 2 years ago, so they will be stuck with a de minimis raise of 2% through several departments. The health insurance and the other increases, I mean, this police contract alone moves the needle probably over 6 figures, plus the wrong direction for us in budgeting. I wouldn't be surprised if by the time we factored in minimal raises for the rest of staff, plus our built-in union raises, that we're $200,000 higher in salaries than we were last year.
And just for comparison, I didn't run any actual figures, but in the past I've broken it down for commissioners for the non-union employees, kind of what the impact of it to a 3 or a 4% would be. Last year we went with a 5, which was a little higher than usual. This year might be a little bit more difficult, but you know, a 2% usually probably runs about 35,000. 3% probably would be closer to 50,000, and a 4% probably closer to 65,000. So, but those will be some figures that we'll run for you, so that by the time we do have our budget workshop, we'll have a little bit better idea. In the papers that I put together for you this evening, we were just anticipating a proposed 3% for the management, non-union staff in PD and dispatch. So that was kind of the figure I was working off of.
So the insurance carrier, the percentage of increase we're looking at on that is approximately what?
Kind of interesting. It depends what plan you go with. I mean, employees are going to actually have a choice of, you know, we're going to have Blue Cross, Prez, and United Health, but we're going to have a PPO option, an HMO option. And then there's also kind of more of a premium option. So, you know, on the low end, the increase isn't that high, but on some of the premium plans, the increase was a little bit higher. But the interesting thing is we do cover 80% of the employees' health insurance premiums. Generally for the HMO, PPO, just your basic plans. If somebody wants more of that Cadillac plan, we're still only going to cover the same amount that we would for the basic plans, and then the employee would need to cover the difference. But we still do offer that if that's something they're interested in. Historically, it was always Blue Cross Blue Shield, so I think it gave them a little bit more options for going out of state.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. One question, if I may, Michael.
Sure.
Sorry, Commissioner Kennedy.
Yeah, the only question I had it did look like all their plans did go up substantially this year?
Like I said, there's one plan that's almost comparable and it didn't really go up. I don't have that information here with me. I think it was more of almost 15% is about what we were seeing.
Yeah, it looked like the plan that was comparable with what I was on may actually be slightly less even.
Yeah, I mean, it just depends. I think some of the variance is more maybe if you're in a single family, maybe the family plans look like they went up a little bit higher, but some of those single or employee plus child really didn't seem to go up that high.
So they offered several options this year.
Yeah, we even are going to have a high deductible option as well, which is quite a bit cheaper, but I think we should kind of caution employees. That might not be for everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
I just had a question about
yes.
the streets budget. I know that we have declining gas tax. If we were going to, probably for you too, Mr. Phillips, is there going to be a method, an idea in the budget to try to have some money set aside for these matches for transportation grants, street grants?
I think we've accrued adequate funds for the projects that we do currently have that have just recently started. I think a lot of that will depend on if you're successful in receiving the co-op and the map, and then there was one other project you're applying for.
Yeah. So potentially using reserves if needed to match.
My request would be to fund the street program to a higher level regardless of match. I mean, we can't necessarily use reserves or these one-time hits that we may see through the construction of the school or the interchange for salaries and for people that maintain the streets. But I think it would be well-serving of our public to pick a dollar amount, whether it was 500,000 of general fund, and distribute that into the street improvement fund in some meaningful way. You know, I will always try to match it. It would be suicide to roll just our money into a project. We would get zero bang for the buck. But you know, I would clearly like to see, in addition to the declining gas tax, some other investment into the street improvement fund, which I can leverage into more. Deferred maintenance costs more money in the future, and I think that, you know, unfortunately, I've been a victim of decades of deferred maintenance on some of these streets, and you know, on our best day, we're playing catch up. We're never going to be out in front of it, and we're never going to have those resources. But a chip seal done 5 years too early instead of 5 years too late may save you a complete resurfacing of a roadway. And I mean, we've got to be really frugal on how we spread street money around, but that money doesn't go very far anymore. So if we could see an infusion of 100,000 to 200,000 a year, it won't move the needle tremendously, but it'll at least kind of keep us from falling behind.
Yeah, I would definitely support that idea, and especially as it can be non-recurring funds, which would be ideal. The other thing I would say is just, we have different things coming up with different projects in the city where maybe we could have done better maintenance on things. I'm not thinking of anything specific, but just in general, and so just considering each department's maintenance needs so that we avoid bigger projects in the future, I think could be something to hone in on, maybe to really think through our different buildings and the needs where we can maybe prevent future money, big project money.
So interim city manager Sagata and I will be meeting with department heads during our regular Monday individual meetings. So that's going to be an opportunity for us to really get some feedback from them on what those needs may be.
One more question.
Yes.
Can you just give a ballpark guess of when the workshops might commence then?
Obviously, I guess it'll depend a little bit on your schedule for doing interviews for the city manager position. We've done them lots of different ways over the years. Sometimes we will schedule it maybe at 4 o'clock before a regular meeting, 4:30. I think 5 doesn't give us enough time, but that seems convenient for everybody since you already have to be here for your regular meeting and staff can actually attend during their normal workday. But I mean, I've seen other municipalities even do them after the regular meeting or just a standalone day.
But probably in the next month.
Oh, yes, no.
Okay. Couple
Yeah,
weeks.
no, we literally need to have a good draft to the commission, probably by the end of the month, first meeting of May. So.
Anything further from the commission?
I guess, Mayor, what, if it came to, you know, like, we're talking about the street funds, what can anything be used out of reserves for? Can it be single projects, or is there any possibility, or how does that work?
Anything that's non-recurring expense. So if it's considered a one-time capital equipment or improvement
So it may be more
purchase.
like targeted street projects or something like that would be.
Yeah,
It
just
wouldn't, if I
not
had my way,
salaries.
I mean, we would, you know, I mean, in other worlds, we have buckets, RPS has buckets, the water department has, you know, funds that are earmarked. Rather than just put it in a budget item and then if I'm not able to secure a project or do it, it gets sucked back in. It would make sense to me to create something like a street improvement fund where we're physically moving money into it. It's there for the duration. That way fiscal years or those things don't matter. It's just committed to the streets. You know, I think that would be prudent. I don't know that we've done something like that.
A lot of municipalities do have some sort of a capital equipment reserve and set that money aside. So I mean, that's something that DFA always kind of recommends, but we've never actually established a fund in each department for that.
And I haven't figured out the nuance of it, but most of my grant programs have match waiver possibilities. But it's a testing of our finances by the Department of Finance Administration. And I believe other communities somehow encumber their reserves differently, where they've assigned it perhaps to a street improvement fund or something like that. And they pass the litmus test and get declared poor enough to receive a match waiver. Y'all's stewardship has been solid for the entire 12 years I've been here. We have reserves and we save them for a rainy day, but ultimately I'm punished for that in grant application processes because I do not get the match waiver, which on maps and co-ops it's 25%, on the TPF it's 5%. But when they test our finances versus communities that I feel like are on the same level, they're getting the match waiver and we're not. And maybe, we're fortunate to have reserves, and I don't want to ever say that's a bad thing and we need to spend all of our money down. I'm just not sure that there's not a way we can reallocate our funds instead of sitting there that would somehow make me more palatable to pass this test.
So actually, the last couple of years, when we've allocated funds from reserve for specific items, I do fill out that form that DFA has that is essentially encumbering those funds. So it's been a while since we've applied for a match waiver, but we might actually qualify. And then I think we could make the argument too that we're cash flowing these large projects, and so that's been kind of a strain on our reserves as well.
Well, and in the interest of transparency, we've been real successful at getting these grants, but sometimes I think the tipping point is, I say we're not asking for a match waiver. The Raton has skin in the game and we're willing to put our 5 or 25% in, and it shows my application differently in the ranking and rating. So I do get the 75% without the match waiver, and it's kind of an effective strategy. We'll have a TPF project on this agenda that I don't have a lot of hope for because we have 3 TPF projects in our back pocket, and that's more than anybody else does. So there's kind of a method to the madness that seems to work for us, but it might help us in the future.
Thank you. Thank you. Ms. Antonini, thank you. So this is a public hearing. If anyone in the public would like to come up and speak with any comments on the budget. If you are online or somewhere else, you're welcome to email the city or call the city with any budget input that you would like to have, and that goes for anyone listening. We will move on to item D, introduction of ordinance and ordinance amending the Raton Code of Ordinances, Chapter 94, nuisances. Mr. Phillips.
Mayor and Commission, items D and E both deal with introduction of ordinances, one relating to nuisance, the next one relating to vacant building registration. We have Mac here this evening, and we also have Brennan Williams on the line to answer any questions. Regretfully, I was not able to well prep for these 2 items due to my involvement in the fire, so I will turn the floor over to them graciously.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips. Mac, if you'd like to present these, that'd be helpful.
Sure. Good evening, Mayor and Commission. Before you, we have basically 2 amendments to the ordinance, chapters 94 and 95. I'll start with 94 since that's first on the agenda. This is our nuisance code. So this would involve things like junk nuisance, weeds, things of that nature. And to sum up what we are trying to accomplish with this amendment is there are a few tweaks elsewhere, but we're basically trying to establish an alternate path toward abatement. Right now, basically the options that we have to get abatement of a certain nuisance is we ask the person by sending either formally by letter or just ask them verbally to abate it. If they do not do so, then my option is to file a criminal complaint in municipal court. That is a misdemeanor, so it makes having your weeds too high a misdemeanor criminal offense. What we are trying to establish is an administrative route, a civil route to handle these cases. So we're not bogging down municipal court. We're not even going the criminal direction. We're establishing a hearing examiner that would act in a quasi-judicial way to judge some of these cases. The authority that they would have is laid out in the proposed amendments to the ordinance. Things such as, ordering a certain nuisance to be abated, ordering, even going up to assigning fines and such things. Because right now, the only way to get a fine imposed on someone is to go through municipal court. And so that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to establish a alternative to going the municipal court direction. Right now, in our ordinance, we actually do have something not exactly like this, but it allows for alternative enforcement, and that is the city manager is the individual who would decide whether or not the city can go in and clean a property and then assign the costs of that cleaning and abatement as a lien against the property. So this would actually be in the benefit of the citizen in that this meeting would not happen behind closed doors. This meeting would happen in a quasi-judicial way where both sides get to present their side of it, and then the hearing examiner makes a determination given the facts. I'd be happy to stand for any questions.
I'll have a question to start us off. Is this something that you've seen that we've researched is successful in other places as a process that helps move these cases along more efficiently?
Yes. So, wish we could take credit for this kind of strategy, but this has been tried in multiple municipalities: City of Albuquerque, Rio Rancho, the city or the Bernalillo County, Edgewood. They've all kind of gone to this hearing examiner path, this administrative route, and it's provided a lot of success for them. And it's brought down their administrative costs on the staff side, and it's also brought greater compliance from the citizens because you're not hauling them in front of a judge. It's kind of hard to get off on the right foot with someone when you file a criminal complaint against them and you're asking for them. The first time you're talking is in front of a judge. And so this would, in our mind, this would be a better system both for the city and also for the citizens.
Thank you. Comments or questions from the Commissioner? Commissioner Hoover.
Yes, I appreciate an alternate path other than municipal court. As I was reading this, one thing that struck me is the hearing examiner.
Yes.
Are there any qualifications or credentials that the hearing examiner would have? This is somebody who's appointed by the city manager, but who is this person?
Yeah, and so we didn't design this position with any person in mind. However, other municipality, we recently just talked to the hearing examiner from Edgewood, and I've also spoken to the hearing examiner from Bernalillo County. And so kind of asking, hey, what are your qualifications? What would you suggest as a qualification for this person? Because like any other position within the city, it would have a list of qualifications that the person would need to have. They recommended someone with, either a former judge, maybe perhaps a former attorney. Bernalillo County uses a former code enforcement officer who is very, familiar with these sorts of things. And so it doesn't need to be an attorney or a judge, but just someone who, and we haven't come up with the list of qualifications, but something along those lines, someone who understands the process and would be unbiased, both, not for one side or the other.
That's basically what I was making sure of, that there wasn't bias, that
Absolutely.
just avoid anybody.
Right, absolutely, and absolutely.
Okay, so you're working on a list of qualifications.
Yeah, just like any position at the city, we would have to, go through the process of drafting a job description for this. Yeah. Thank you for the question.
Any further questions from the Commissioner?
I guess the only question I would have is there, after this hearing examiner's done it, and I know, when you go to municipal court, it's one thing, but what would they do if they want to appeal or do something else? What would be the next step for them?
So, yeah, basically, they can appeal the hearing examiner's determination to the city commission. So that would be the next step. And so we're we're not taking away any rights of the citizens by appointing this individual. We are just creating one more step for them to be heard and hopefully to have a resolution. Because really, as the code enforcement officer, we're interested in compliance, not punishment. We're interested in talking to the person and getting a resolution rather than having a fine or something like that. So if this can be worked out with just three people, two people and a moderator, rather than in front of a judge, there's so many benefits to that.
I noticed there was anything further, Commissioner.
The only question is, and I guess we have discussed this or somewhat with the municipal league's participation somewhat.
Yes. So the individual, Brennan Williams is on the line. He is a consultant for the Municipal League. And so he's former planning and zoning officer for the city of Albuquerque. And so he is the one who kind of helped us to write this and involved a lot of the things that have been used around the state.
So it has been with a lot of success up to now.
Yes.
In other places. Thank you.
We've heard only positive things from it. And we're not taking away anything that the city can do now. We're just adding this alternate route that we can still go to municipal court if we need to. We're just adding another tool in our tool belt that might be good for different situations.
Mr. Williams, is there anything you'd like to comment on with the success or your experience with these nuisance ordinances and adding this hearing examiner to them?
Madam Mayor and Commissioners, can you hear me?
Yes, you can. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Yes, no, I think Mac did an excellent job describing the benefits of this procedure. As he mentioned, there are multiple communities around the state that have gone with this administrative process. As he mentioned, it's different than taking somebody to court. A misdemeanor action, even though some of us might say it's a misdemeanor, kind of freaks people out sometimes. And this, in my experience, really helps to open communication if that hasn't occurred. But it's also a formal process by which property owners can come in and explain their situation, their plight, gives the code enforcement officer the opportunity to do so, and then you've got an unbiased individual making a determination. As he mentioned, I participated along with a couple other city staff members on a Zoom call or a Teams call with the town of Edgewood, who has implemented this program. City staff has kind of looked at that program and thought it would match or it could apply to the situations that Raton is facing. And it seems to be extremely successful. They have a hearing officer that wants compliance, which I think is important. Staff has stressed that to me as the consultant, that they don't want to be punitive in their approach. They just want people to come into compliance, but from a time standpoint, from a speed standpoint, it's much easier to get stuff before a hearing officer, open the lines of communication, and get a resolution than it is to involve somebody in the court system. So I would just say Mac is spot on. The major change to the nuisance ordinance is really this hearing examiner and the associated processes that go with it. And so I'm happy to be involved in the project.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Mac, would you mind going over, there's a couple very other small changes in here that don't relate to the hearing officer, and I noticed we're removing the keeping of honeybees and hives will no longer be a nuisance, I guess. Yeah. And a few of the other small things in here, if you don't mind addressing those.
Sure. I think we were on with Brennan, and he brought up the idea that the language of the previous nuisance ordinance, I believe it was in 1978 when it was adopted, so it can be a little vague at times, and also, the keeping of honeybees and hives. We were kind of looking at ourselves and being like, okay, we were kind of scratching our heads on why this was specifically called out in the ordinance and wondering if it would create perhaps some problems with conflicting with New Mexico statute. Was that kind of our reasoning, Brendan, on that?
Yes, and that I think collectively we decided that, the keeping of honeybees from an agricultural standpoint was something that the city wanted to, wanted to promote or certainly was not opposed to versus when the ordinance had been originally adopted.
Yeah. And then looks like in 94.04, the impounding of abandoned vehicles. Before we had a recuperation of $5 for towing this vehicle and $1 a day. Now we've changed the language to basically just say whatever we spent on the impoundment, because basically every impoundment we were losing money on. It just allows the city to recoup what it puts in to it. Let's see. Again, we took the city manager out of the alternative enforcement process and put that authority into the hands of the hearing examiner. And we've discussed that. Let's see. I think those are the major changes. We changed some language, I believe, in the beginning of.
There was a purpose added.
Yeah, so we added yeah. Go ahead, Brendan.
Well, the purpose statement was added just to kind of not only establish the intent of the nuisances ordinance, but also to specifically associate it with the comprehensive plan.
I thought that was supposed to be.
Yeah, and so that was our idea, was we're trying to dovetail the comprehensive plan with our nuisance ordinance so that everything is working in the same direction. And I think we just cleaned up some language. We put in around this unsheltered junk, just minor changes to the language to be more specific and less ambiguous. Very, very minor changes.
Any further comments or questions from the commission?
Well, one question. You just mentioned our nuisance ordinance.
Yes.
This says ordinance number to be determined. Why is it a different number than the one that we already have?
Because the only way you can amend an ordinance is to introduce and adopt a new ordinance.
Okay, I just needed to hear that.
Great question. Other questions from the commission? And so this is just an introduction of an ordinance, amending the Raton Code of Ordinances, Chapter 94, nuisances, just introducing the ordinance. If there's nothing further, I would entertain a motion.
I move that we adopt the amending to the Raton Code of Ordinances, Chapter 94, nuisances. We introduce that.
Second?
I have a motion and a second to introduce the ordinance. May I have a roll call, please?
Sure. Mayor Chatterley?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Honeyfield?
Yes.
Commissioner Schuster?
Yes.
Commissioner Campbell?
Yes.
And Commissioner Hoger?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Next, we'll look at item E, introduction of ordinance, an ordinance amending the Raton Code of Ordinances, Chapter 97, vacant building registration. Matt, we'll turn this over to you to get us started.
Good evening, Mayor and Commission. So basically, this is our vacant building registration ordinance, or VBRO for short. This is the ordinance that was adopted in 2021, I believe, just basically as a response to the large amount of vacant and dilapidated properties around town. We were actually one of the first in New Mexico to adopt an ordinance like this, but since 2021, there's been many, many other municipalities that have done so. And so it's more likely for a municipality, not to have it's more likely for them to have one than not now. especially very recently. And so basically the amendments that we're making are, again, we're introducing this hearing examiner position to it. It's the same hearing examiner as would be in the nuisance ordinance. And again, it would just allow us a different avenue in order to resolve some of these cases. Because as the code enforcement officer, oftentimes for some of these properties, I'll send out a letter and you just get no response. People, it's a family property, or perhaps they don't even know that they own the property, and so it creates a lot of paperwork and doesn't get a whole lot of results the way that we're currently doing it. And so this would, again, just allow a different route so that in order to get a change, I don't have to file a criminal complaint in municipal court, and allow for there to be better communication rather than for there to be escalation.
Thank you. I'll start with a question unless someone else wants to go. Okay. So a couple questions I had. One is the section where we have, we're asking that they have an authorized representative in Colfax County. Is that something that other cities have done, and is common practice now to have somebody local? Because I do know that is a frustrating piece when we can't get a hold of anyone.
Yes. I'm not, Brendan probably knows more how widespread this is, but I do believe that, Santa Fe has it, multiple different municipalities have it. Brendan, do you know how widespread this county representative is?
Madam Mayor, Commissioners, yes, it's very common. I'm in the Albuquerque area. Albuquerque requires somebody local, so to speak, somebody that lives within the county, as well as Bernalillo County has a similar requirement. And I'm also aware of other jurisdictions, other municipalities throughout the state that require that as well. And the intent of that is that the quicker the city can get a hold of somebody if there's a problem with a vacant property, the more likely it's addressed appropriately, not requiring the city to have to expend money or work efforts to correct the situation. And so that's the reason that it was added to this ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. I think it would also come from a safety perspective of having somebody local that you can contact when there's a serious issue, like a window out or, inappropriate access or something like that. So that makes sense. In mine, it's the second page, evidence of vacancy. It has the words, may consider the factors herein among others. And I know this is the original language. Is there a reason why we still have among others, or are we pretty consistent with the list we have? Do we need to have that in there to be intentionally open to other things, or?
Yes. So there could be other things that could lead us to establishing evidence of vacancy. We tried to be very inclusive of all the different things, but it can kind of, when you're conducting an investigation and trying to figure out, is this property covered under the ordinance or not, it's in your best interest to be as open as possible. But I would say 99% of the time, it's one of these reasons. It's these exactly.
Reason.
Exactly.
And then my other question, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay.
Mine dovetails yours.
Okay, so my other question is on that list, and this previously I felt like was a potential, I don't know, I won't phrase what I think it is, but number 17, it is used solely for personal or private storage of vehicles, equipment, machinery, supplies, parts, or miscellaneous without an active residential, commercial, or industrial purpose. I've always thought that was a little bit stringent, considering if the property did have the other things, it did have utilities on, it did have someone taking care of the property, and it wasn't violating the nuisance ordinance. So I just wondered if there were thoughts on that, if other cities are doing the same thing. I know that a lot of people will just say, oh, well, that's my storage building, even when it's really not, things like that. Yeah. So is that the main issue with that one?
Yeah, that's the main issue. And none of these in and of themselves are a trigger for vacancy, it being a vacant building. There's not one of these that is, something that this is the only determination on a vacant building. But you're right, someone can kind of just at that point claim, oh, well, I'm using it for storage, when it's, we have, just on Second Street, in an example, we have many of our, front-facing storefronts that are vacant, but they have, quote-unquote storage in them from, a business that used to be there, from an owner that, maybe they own a house and they just want to store their items in there. And so the vacant building ordinance is designed to both categorize, and so we know how many vacant buildings we have, and also encourage the zoned use of these properties and to bring them back from a vacant property back into a property that is contributing to the GRT, to the community. Yeah.
Thank you. I'll circle back, but we'll let some other commissioners. Commissioner Hoger, did you want to?
Yeah, just because it's in that same section, evidence of vacancy. In number 2, it says it is a building or structure in which lawful business, construction operation, or residential occupancy is at a level of at least 95% vacant. What does that mean?
So the classic example of this would be a motel or something like that, where it's the owner lives there or something of that nature. So it's technically not vacant, but it's for all intents and purposes vacant.
Okay.
Yeah. So that would be, or an office park where the entire building is vacant. I mean, I don't know if we have any of those, but the other thing would be like an office park. The whole thing is vacant except for, one office is occupied by the owner. So that would be the intent of this number 2.
Anything further, Commissioner Hoger?
No.
Other commissioners?
I've had issues with this ordinance ever since it was put into place. But my concern is the liability the city takes on if we determine that a building is vacant and their property casualty insurance company becomes aware of that and their insurance gets canceled. We've created a hardship on that citizen or property owner.
So is your concern that by us saying that a property is in fact vacant, this would get back to their insurance company and cause them to lose their coverage because we've declared it as vacant?
Right.
All right. I'm not too sure on what our liability and what our responsibility would be at that point. Brennan, do you have any insights on if that would create additional liability for the city?
Madam Mayor and Commissioners, the short answer is no. I've not heard of that, but I certainly can advise you on the legal aspect as it relates to liability. I think as Mac mentioned, the intent is not to penalize people, but it's to have some sort of a registration process that notifies the city, which properties or which buildings are vacant, as well as encourage vacant building owners to get those buildings occupied to create GRT for the city and become a functioning business. The purpose of the changes to the ordinance, again, is not to penalize anybody, but rather give city staff the ability to address these matters from an administrative standpoint, rather than what's on the books currently, which is simply a criminal process. So again, I apologize for the long-winded answer, but I'm not aware of any liability in any other jurisdictions throughout the state that have adopted a similar ordinance as it relates to insurance being canceled because the building is deemed vacant.
Well, I guess what I'm getting back to on this, our hypothetical citizen has a mortgage on that building. There is a mortgage clause requiring proof of insurance. My own agent has told me that building gets labeled vacant, the insurance company cancels it. They don't want to assume that risk. Now, the other issue I take in this, you also require in here, provide proof of general liability insurance. That's usually a rider on a property casualty policy. I don't know of a property owner that can get general liability on a vacant piece of property. And who would they be insuring if they did buy that general liability insurance?
I mean, if they were gonna be, I think they just their own building. And,
But see, it doesn't cover that building. It recovers, I'm gonna use an example here.
I see what you're saying.
See,
Sorry.
Brian Cotter's walking down the sidewalk in front of that building and slips and falls, and he wants to sue the building owner. The general liability policy covers that. But Brian Cotter breaks into the building, burns it down, and he gets hurt in the process. That insurance policy does not cover the replacement of that building, just the liability to whomever the insured is. But I've never seen a situation where one can be put in place without the other.
Well, as far as the insurance requirements, I know that asking for general liability insurance is a protective measure for the city's liability. So because we are, the city, municipalities have been sued in litigation for what they allow to take place, what the vacancies that they allow within their community, and the effects that can have if someone gets injured, if a fire is started, which is fortunately common around Raton, or other things. And so that general liability insurance is meant to not only protect the public, but also protect the city from.
But it wouldn't, the city's usually never named in a general liability policy. Usually that policy is intended to protect the owner. So like I said, I mean, it's very gray, the way I read this.
And Mayor Pro Tem, it looks like that section, and you probably already are seeing this, it says the hearing examiner may order, so it's just like one of the possible outcomes there. Do you think that is just not a possibility for the hearing officer to put that in? Is there something better to put there?
I would see it to be difficult. I'm gonna, I guess, angle back as an example, the Biscotti building that we just demolished. There was back taxes on that thing and other liens. The owner was not gonna buy general liability insurance on it. They couldn't afford to keep it anyway. I know it looks good in print, but I guess what I'm looking at it from is the reality standpoint of what's real in these cases. But like I said, what makes me nervous and what I've always argued about was if they have available utilities in front of the property, we assess them for that, so we don't call their building vacant for the simple risk of what may come of that label.
Would it perhaps be a matter of wordsmithing underutilized building ordinance because I do agree that the term vacant in the insurance world is a trigger word.
Yes.
I think even on our own liability itself, that the city itself cannot insure a vacant building under our self-insured policy.
Yes.
It does, Mayor, I guess my only question would be also, I know what you're saying, and it gets into the definitions of what they're calling vacant, because technically, if it's vacant, you should have told your insurance company anyway. If they find out after a claim, they're gonna say don't have insurance. So as I'm saying, if they're hiding that fact, I'm not sure we're at fault if we actually are highlighting that fact. Meaning, now we have to make sure that our definitions and their definitions are the same, but that same thing, we're talking about our insurance, you're supposed to disclose if you have a vacant building, not continue on for years. Insure, when you're not actually even occupying it. And I think some of that might be what would go on, and we're actually forcing them to disclose that fact. You can't, even if it brings their insurance company, if you're not truly showing it's used, maybe it should be disclosed.
Yeah. Well, I guess what I'm kind of looking at is a situation where, the old family homestead, the parents pass on, and in the course of the probate, which could go 2 years, if the city labels it as vacant, because it happened to us. My mother-in-law passed away, the insurance company sent somebody by to look at the electric meter. We weren't using enough electricity to warrant that house being occupied.
Yeah. So,
Madam Mayor?
Yes, Commissioner Schuster. Go ahead, Commissioner Schuster. Commissioner, I can hear you now, yes.
Okay, I'm just going to suggest that by having that hearing examiner, won't that help eliminate some of those issues where it's kind of touch and go, such as the in-laws homestead house, because that can be, that can be taken into consideration, those facts. But we've seen, buildings vacant for 40 years and overpriced and underutilized on our downtown area, and it's a blight on us. And I don't know how else we can address those issues. I mean, 40 years to leave a building completely vacant is a very long time.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anything further?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
No, and don't get me wrong, I agree with the concept of a hearing officer in practice. It's just that the way the ordinance is written, that the hearing officer has to abide by, I take issues with. It needs to be cleaned up and a little reality factored into this thing. To me, my initial read on this, as I've read the old ordinance, extremely heavy-handed. We don't put off that aura of being business-friendly to somebody that may want to take on a project building in town because this is in the background.
and I totally, I understand we're trying to put forward this business-friendly, because we are business, we want to be business-friendly. So this requirement of a vacant building owner obtaining the liability insurance is actually already part of our ordinance.
But what I guess I'm getting at, Mac, is we probably need to do a little due diligence to see how practical this even is. Is it obtainable? Like I said, I did my own little dab of research on it just from my business connections, and I'm told that the way this is written isn't the way it is really done.
Anything further?
No.
Commissioner Campbell?
I guess I understand what Mark's saying. The one thing I do like about the hearing officer is it'd be a lot better that this is done in that environment than in court, even if you're gonna sit down and say, is this a house that's inherited? You didn't go through a court process. Now you're sitting from somebody else that can explain exactly what you're talking about. No, this is my in-law's house or whatever else. I'm going through this process. I think that hearing officer would have the latitude to make that decision, and versus putting it in front of a judge of, okay, well, we can wait and we'll visit this later. I see what you're saying about heavy-handed. I kind of agree with Commissioner Schuster, though. at some point, we gotta make some changes or whatever, because we got a lot of vacant buildings and not much happening to change it. And at least the hearing officer could find out, hopefully, the facts of why are they sitting there and what can we do to keep it not being the next 40 years.
Mac, are there any changes to the fee structures? Doesn't look like anything's changed.
No, we wanted to make sure that, because I know I wasn't here in 2021, but I was told that was a definite sticking point. You know, we don't want to overburden our citizens that are trying to comply with the ordinance. And so there's been no price increase on any of the year's fees, even though, you know, quite frankly, compared to other municipalities, our fees are very, very low, very, very low, even in, you know, similar municipalities. But we want to reward the citizens who are abiding by the ordinance, not punish them. So that's why we chose to left the fee structure in place. The only thing that we did add is the ability for the hearing examiner, for someone who's completely non-compliant, to add fees to it. Yeah.
I do like the idea of the hearing officer, just because there is this ability to have just a good conversation about what's actually going on. Will that person, I was kind of reading through here, that person will be able to determine if they would have like a year's leeway or things like that, of that nature, if they're going through some kind of particular process, or if it would create a hardship for them.
Yeah, so they would have the leeway to kind of, because the problem we're facing now is like Commissioner Honeyfield brought up, there's many different situations why a building is vacant. And so when I send out a letter, you know, and someone calls me and is like, hey, there's, you know, we try to work with people, but we're also bound by the ordinance. And if I were, you know, even if I'm trying to give someone a break or trying to work with them, I'm still bound by what the ordinance says. I can't choose to, even if I feel bad, I can't choose to disobey the ordinance. However, this will allow the hearing examiner it will give them the authority to have a little wiggle room in how they enforce the ordinance. And really that's what we're trying to do, is just make more conversation, less rigid structure, and have just a better outcome for both the city and citizens.
And there is that appeal process with the commission as well.
Everything is appealable to the commission.
Further comments or questions?
I guess just one other one. This one's similar to the other one. It has been worked, of course, with the municipal league's involvement. From the municipal league's involvement, kind of with what Commissioner Honeyfield has said, has there been a quote-unquote legal review from their side? They've looked at some of this to where, you know, I know this is going on in a lot of other places to where we know it's been looked at in that fashion.
Brendan, what would you say as far as the, you know, both the feasibility of getting the general liability policy for a vacant structure, and then also, you know, is this a pervasive part of other ordinances around municipalities?
Madam Mayor and Commissioners, well, first let me clarify that while as a consultant I do perform work for the Municipal League, in my current capacity I'm working directly for consulting for the City of Raton. But Mac, to your questions, one, I think, and I apologize, I don't know which commissioner mentioned it earlier, but there are current requirements, some current ordinance for general liability insurance for vacant buildings. And we've added, to mirror that, we've added in the new section 97.37, the alternative procedures, that's one of the considerations for the hearing officer. But secondly, to answer your second question, I am not aware in the city of Albuquerque or Bernalillo County, which I've done extensive work with, that there's been an issue with, you know, with somebody losing their insurance or not being able to obtain insurance. But, you know, full confession, I don't always, you know, I'm not always involved in those conversations. So the short answer would be, you know, if it's a problem, we can certainly amend or edit the proposal to remove that, but as I mentioned earlier, this is a requirement that's already in the ordinance. So I guess my point would be I would defer back to city staff to say, have you guys been made aware of that, or to the commission? Have you been made aware that somebody was deemed to have a vacant building and they subsequently lost or forfeited their insurance capabilities?
It hasn't happened to my knowledge, but again, I don't know if the property owner would tell me if that
Right.
happened.
Right. Same here.
Thank you for that. And any further questions from the commission? And this is an introduction of the ordinance. What is the will of the commission on this? If we'd like more time, we can always postpone as well. That's always an option.
I would move that we continue with the introduction of the ordinance.
Thank you, Commissioner Schuster. I have a motion to continue with the introduction of the ordinance, amending the Raton City Code of Ordinances, Chapter 97, vacant building registration. Do I have a second?
A second.
I have a motion and a second for item E. Any further discussion? Madam Clerk, may we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Mayor Chatterley,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Honeyfield,
Yes.
Commissioner Schuster,
Yes.
Commissioner Campbell,
Yes.
and Commissioner Hogarth.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Thank you, Mac. Thank you, Brennan.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we'll move on to item F, deliberate and act on Planning and Zoning Commission recommendations. The
Brennan Williams
Has left.
Cameron W. Roundtree and Jessica J. Roundtree for the approval of a final plat subdivision for a 4.6167 acre parcel subdivided from 55 plus or minus acre parent parcel for the proposed site of the fiber optic regeneration station. Mr. Phillips.
Mayor and Commission, you have in your packet a recommendation from Planning and Zoning for the approval of this. It's noted by Chairman Madison that it was a unanimous approval. It would be my sense that a simple subdivision of land, regardless of what the proposed use of, is a separate process in the city of Raton. We've had a group come forward to want to subdivide their property in a way that's not unlike we would subdivide any piece of property. The fact that its use is a proposed fiber optic regeneration station, I think that's more of a land use question that's best addressed in a zoning permit or some other document going forward, whether that's the acceptable usage. Obviously, Planning and Zoning has vetted it and seen the plat of subdivision and determined that it's acceptable under the subdivision regulations. So I would recommend approval of the subdivision.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips. We have already looked at this as a preliminary plat, I believe, and were there any changes from that point?
It does not look like there have been any changes.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips.
Thank you.
Comments or questions from the commission?
Well, I guess I have a question on that. So the present zoning on this is RHD.
Yes.
What is the appropriate zoning for this facility?
RHC would allow this.
For that? Okay. Okay.
I believe when I looked at it, they talked about utilities, and this would be considered a utility with lumen, I believe.
Yes.
Okay.
Further comments or questions? I would entertain a motion on item F.
I'll move that we approve the final plat subdivision for a 4.6167 acre parcel subdivided from 55 acres parent parcel for the proposed site of the fiber optic regeneration station. Second.
Motion is second for item F. Any further discussion? All in favor, vote by the sign of aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item G, deliberate and act on grant agreement between the City of Raton and the NMDOT Aviation Division for Taxiway A pavement maintenance engineering. Mr. Phillips.
Mayor and Commission, as you recall, we've had an FAA grant application come through for a significant portion of the engineering services. This is the accompanying state aviation grant. The grant amount would be $3,000 from state aviation, $3,005. We would have a $334 match, and the federal obligation towards this would be $63,433. And it is just for the taxiway pavement maintenance engineering task order proposed by Moulton Corbin. We would recommend approval of this grant agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips. Any comments or questions from the commission? I would say a $334 engineering bill is pretty good in these days.
Yeah, no problem. Go pay for that one.
If there's no questions, I would entertain a motion for item G.
I'll move we approve the grant agreement between the City of Raton and NMDOT Aviation Division for Taxiway A pavement maintenance engineering.
Second.
I have a motion, a second for item G for the approval of the grant agreement. Any further discussion? All in favor, vote by the sign of aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item H, deliberate and act on striker maintenance contract for defibrillators and CPR compression devices utilizing the Sourcewell contract number 04831. Mr. Phillips.
Mayor and Commission, as you can see from the quote that's been provided, we're looking for some life-saving measures, CPR devices, as well as the AED devices. I believe we've done Sourcewell procurement on other items. Sourcewell is similar to CES and statewide price agreement, and with the difference that it is a nationwide cooperative procurement method that we've used actually to get some pretty favorable pricing on a lot of items in the past. So it seems to pass the procurement test. I do not know which pool of money that Chief Burke intends to pull these from. I'm assuming it's an EMS funding item.
Yes, it would be our EMS Fund 208. And this will enable us, we're really trying to spend all the money before June 30. So that's
Thank you, Ms. Antonucci.
So with that being said, we recommend approval of the purchase.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips. Any comments or questions from the commission?
Madam Mayor, I got a question.
Yes, sir.
I own stock in this company. Would you prefer I abstain from voting?
I say if money touches you, you probably need to abstain, even though that's pretty loose. You can never be too careful. Okay. I'm going to have one abstention here. Any further comments or questions? I would entertain a motion.
Since I don't own stock in this company.
Your investment profile.
Recommend approval of the striker maintenance contract for defibrillators and CPR compression devices utilizing the Sourcewell contract number 04831.
Second.
I have a motion, a second for item H. Any further discussion? Madam Clerk, can we have a roll call on this one, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Mayor Chatterley.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Honeyfield is abstaining. Commissioner Schuster.
Yes.
Commissioner Campbell.
Yes.
And Commissioner Hoger.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Motion carries. We move on to item I, deliberate and act on Engineering Analytics, Inc., recommendation of bid award for the 2nd Street Improvement Project. Mr. Phillips?
So the long-awaited, primarily ADA accessibility project for South 2nd Street has reached the award stage. Pleasantly, it is a under-budget bid, which is nice. I think we've finally seen some of the inflationary pressures on bidding decrease. It's a Pacheco Construction, which is the first time I've had the opportunity to work with them. I know they have done projects throughout northeast New Mexico, and we have not had them yet in Raton. They seem to be hungry for work based on their pricing and available to start rather quickly, which is news to my ears. If we're going to make a mess out of town, we might as well do it all at one time. So with that, we would recommend award of the project to Pacheco Construction. Tyler and I have already began discussing items that were pulled out of the project to hit what we thought was the engineer's estimate. So some of it will be just simple quantity increases in things like wheelchair ramps and curb and gutter. But this does somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 wheelchair ramps, detectable strips on almost everything. Coincidentally, I'm also in the middle of a road safety audit with DOT that we had a kickoff on Friday, and it continues Thursday and Friday of this week. That South 2nd Street is the crux of that. So they weren't aware of my project. So it may be possible in this audit that before I commit our 200,000 in underspent funds, I may see what this audit produces. You know, one thing that's kind of been bothersome, and I don't know how the best way to address it is, in the event of a power outage, DOT has provided some backup batteries in some of the cabinets, and it's hit or miss whether when we go dark, if we have a flashing red light or black lights. Unfortunately, when that happens and we go dark, I mobilize a crew. It takes time to get the trailer hooked up. We go four-way stop. Well, then lo and behold, the power comes back on, and I have a green light with a stop sign sending conflicting messages to already challenged drivers in the vector space and opening up liability for the city of Raton. So I'd like to perhaps work with RPS, DOT, and maybe with some of these funds, establishing reliable backup. It just gets a little weird because signalization agreements and even, I believe, the South 2nd Street maintenance agreement may no longer be in effect. I believe those were 25-year contracts, and we've exceeded that date. Clearly, on my side, 2nd Street is DOT's primary responsibility. We do light maintenance and snow removal, so there's a litany of discussions to be had. But as far as this contract goes, the initial first step would be to award it and get contracts and bonds going, and then to see where we expand it from there.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips. Comments or questions from
The alternative for the railroad that passed by old power plant, that's factored into this, or what's the adder on it?
It is. I want to say the adder was $100K, and we intend to award it with that. So we'd factor that in before we figured out what we had. But I believe the 700 is under budget, but we do intend to paint the underpass.
anything further? Not, I would entertain a motion for item I for the award to Pacheco Trucking and Construction.
I will move that we award the bid for the 2nd Street Improvement Project
Would you mind stating the name of the company in that for us?
to Pacheco Trucking and Construction.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second for item I. Any further discussion? All in favor, vote by the sign of aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on, item J, deliberate and act on resolution 2026-18, City of Raton Destination Forward Grant Application for the purchase and installment of a digital billboard. Mr. Phillips.
Mayor and Commission, as most of you know, for the better part of a decade, the city has kicked around ways to improve our advertising of local events to passerbys. The advent of the digital billboard makes a lot of sense, that you're not changing skins, that with something as basic as a cell phone or a laptop, you can have scrolling messages that are timely for events like 4th of July and kill that advertisement on July 6th so that you have current stuff going at all times. Ann Tice is here this evening. She can speak to this, but Ann has prepared or is preparing a grant for the Destination Forward program. The grant would be for $250,000 with a 5% match, or $12,500. You may recall that we used Destination Forward funds to renovate the elevator at the convention center. Relatively new grant program, pretty straightforward on able to use. This would be a two-sided billboard with a net cost to the city of $12,500, which we would then own. And I think bang for the buck wise, it would be a great investment for the city of Raton. And Ms. Tice is here to answer any questions if you have any, or I would as well.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips.
Thank you.
Would you like to come up and present? Do we have a location that we're looking at for this? Like
Yes.
I-25 location?
Madam Mayor, for disclosure on this one. So I own the billboard that is one of the locations that is being considered. So that billboard would be deconstructed and the new billboard built on a property that I own.
And
So
it
I
has-
will be abstaining.
Abstaining, okay. And it has electricity, everything ready to
It
go?
currently has electricity to it, and my electrician is currently connecting the solar array that I own into the grid at that utility connect.
Cool. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Ann, if you'd like to share.
Yeah, so, I mean, the location where that billboard is actually a perfect location. I've pulled tons of different placer reports, and, you know, on that side of the road, so that's the southbound Colorado side, is our heaviest traffic side of any of our exits, Clayton Road, south of Clayton Road, north of Clayton Road, northbound, southbound. That has 5,000 cars per day on average. And so it's it's our busiest exit in all reality. And of course, bridge work, traffic, there's a lot of backup there, a lot of eyeballs waiting to see something. They're just sitting there. So I think it's a perfect location. And we did price out several different options. So the one here would be about 23, almost 24 feet long, which is a little over half of the current size of the billboard. We went and did a bunch of measuring this weekend of it. And so it'd be shorter than that, almost the same height. But the benefit is that we could get it double-sided. So we can do double duty. And, you know, although it's across the highway, I did take some video, and you can see it coming down. So, like, if you're exiting from Clayton, going northbound on I-25 to Colorado, you can see it over there. So there is an option at this point still to change it. If we could get one larger billboard that's single-facing, or we can stick with this side and get the dual-facing, which I think would get a lot more bang for the buck there.
Comments or, thank you. Comments or questions from the commission?
And I have a rendering,
Please.
It's a ChatGPT rendering with, it didn't quite get it right, so I had to put it in Canva and add something, so.
Please walk it around.
Okay.
We welcome you.
So just, and again, this doesn't really show the dual-sided nature of it, but this is kind of roughly what it could look like.
Are there, and this is something that I just thought about, having looked at billboards before and putting up new ones, does NMDOT have any kind of regulation on electronic billboards?
Yeah, we will have to submit an application. It's $750, which is actually, depending on what vendor we end up going with. So the good news is, so the deadline was today, however, or tonight at midnight. I guess they had some issue, and we have 2 more weeks now. So we have a little bit of time if we want to.
You had 3 hours anyway.
I know. I'll wait until 7 o'clock in 2 weeks. But yeah, so we have a little bit more time if we want to shop more vendors. There's another vendor we're looking at that is on the state price agreement, but they've not been as forthcoming with their quotes, so I don't know what that's at right now. So there's still options out there, but generally we're trying to hit that $250 price point because if you go over that, you're in a tier 3 category for the Destination Forward grant, which comes with a lot more lift. So we can also look at that and see if that's something we want to do.
Do we need to be $249,999 to not trigger tier 3, or is $250 even
It
worse?
says 250 and then 2, so I think it's kind of like right there,
We
so.
could reword the resolution if you think we need a factor of safety, if that penny would come back to bite us, then.
I don't think so, because it, I mean, it says up to 250,
250? All right.
so I think it's fine. Do you, I don't know. You know that department better than I do. I can ask them now that we have 2 weeks if we need to amend it, but I would assume it would be okay. So I have 237,500 would be the grant request amount, and then 12.5 as the match from the city. Yeah, and so the vendor we talked to, 2 of them, they said they actually have available of having like a cell signal in it. So we could, update the billboard from a laptop or phone, any, as long, because it'll have essentially access. So we don't have to run, we talked to the Mayor Pro Tem about whether or not we could run fiber out there or some kind of data line, which is possible, but it's not currently there.
Is this something we're looking at a partner to manage? Are we managing it in-house, or do we know? Do we have an idea yet on how who is updating this? In the spirit of maintenance, thinking about maintenance.
We'll build the plane as we fly.
I'd kind of assumed it would be somewhere in the Explore Raton / Albertone Media Works wheelhouse of kind of marketing.
Potentially part of their scope of work.
Yeah, in some way. And we don't want it to, this might even be a little too busy. I mean, again, you're just gonna have to play around with what can you actually see moving at 65 miles an hour. So mostly it's gonna be, I think, big block letters, pretty pictures. It's illegal to do motion video, animations, or anything other than like cuts. You can't, and they have to be slow. Like you can only, 8 seconds is the minimum length the video can stay up at one time.
That's very good. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Ann.
Mm-hmm. Any comments or questions from the commission?
I have one question,
Okay.
Ann. Can you address if there's any annual recurring expense to having the billboard?
The expense would be coming from the utility bill, of course, because this is, an LED sign. There will be utilities there. Although, as Mayor Pro Tem Honeyfield mentioned, that he does have some supplemental solar there, but I don't know what the utility cost would be. It sounded like the data package was included in that, and so we'll get clarity on that, and then I think just whatever maintenance would be needed. And luckily, we have an expert in town on LED walls, so won't be too hard to maintain, I think.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
I can say, Michael, and the present sign is lit, and that utility bill's less than $20 a month.
I just didn't know if the company that we would be purchasing it from had some sort of annual recurring expense that we would need to
Yeah, and there are
budget for, but I guess we'll wait to see if we get the grant.
Cynthia and I had done some demos with some LED sign companies, and they do try to sell you this like packaged software. But these ones were not that way. I mean, you have to do all the work to like maintain it, but they don't have this like, really nice packaged, expensive software that you do every month. So that's one of the reasons I was leaning towards this one, because it wouldn't have those kinds of costs.
And those were probably what I saw initially was the earlier proposal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks for clarifying.
Thank you. Anything further?
I would assume we would have a lease for the location, though.
Right.
Yeah, and Ann just gave all of our leverage on that.
Yeah, sure did.
But if Mr. Honeyfield's too tough, we do own RMAC, so, there's
It's right there.
We'll negotiate with them.
One more thing. So I did draft as part of the grant package, because one of the big things with this Destination Forward grant is they want shovel-worthy, shovel-ready grants. And so to do that, I drafted a content policy and like a purpose and policy, like what it's for, because one of the things we also have to be careful about is the anti-donation clause, right? So the city can't just be like willy-nilly giving businesses free advertising space. So the focus is on pulling people off the highway. And then, there is an option to sell ads, but then, for that, we would have to create this commission will have to do some kind of approved plan of like exactly what it would cost so that it's even and fair to everybody. But mainly focusing on just getting people to our historic downtown, to our events, which will benefit all of the, we can say there's food, there's lodging, without charging any of the businesses. And then if we do want to sell specific ads, we can figure that out later. And then I did draft an intent to lease for the city to review and for Mayor Pro Tem Honeyfield to also review in terms of what that lease agreement might look like, so we can kind of show that due diligence that we don't need to still find the land and negotiate what that would look like. So,
Thank you. Makes for a stronger grant application for sure.
yeah, exactly.
I would entertain a motion on item J.
Since I don't own any potential property, I would recommend approval of resolution 2026-18 for the City of Raton Destination Forward grant application for the purchase and installation of a digital billboard.
Second.
I have a motion, a second for item J for resolution 2026-18 to adopt. Any further discussion? Madam Clerk, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Mayor Chatterley,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Honeyfield's abstaining, Commissioner Schuster,
Yes.
Commissioner Campbell,
Yes.
and Commissioner Hoger.
Yes.
Thank you. And our land baron and investor has abstained. We'll see what else you're involved in here, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, I had to check, but
Commissioner Rockefeller.
All right, item K, deliberate and act on TLC Construction Services estimate for the Roundhouse Trail paving project utilizing CES contract. Mr. Phillips.
Mayor and Commission, as only luck would have it for Jason, you may recall that we have awarded this project once to Sunland Asphalt, who had done business for decades in the state of New Mexico. And immediately after we awarded them a project, they ceased operations in New Mexico and decided to consolidate on Arizona and Denver markets. And they notified me they would be unable to complete our project. So back to the drawing board. Here we come with another CES vendor, TLC Construction DBA Spear D Construction, a firm I am not familiar with, have not worked with, but they have the procurement, the licensor. They were actually referred to me by Todd Larson, who is our outgoing project manager from Sunland Asphalt. He knew he was putting me in a bind. I asked him, hey, do you know anybody that might be able to, kind of pick up this project and install mastic and crack seal and overlay? And he had put me into contact with Sam Pfeiffer of TLC. The price is moderately higher than the last one. I want to say it's $20,000 different. But I recommend we move forward, and hopefully I don't take out yet another asphalt company in New Mexico. But this grant has a fast fuse. I still do not have an extension that was indicated to be forthcoming, so I'm operating under the assumption I need to be done by June 30th, and these folks tell me they can do that, so.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips. Any
Thank you.
comments or questions from the commission? Entertain a motion, item K.
I'll move that we approve the contract with TLC Construction Services estimate for the Roundhouse Trail paving project utilizing CES contract.
Second.
The motion is second for item K for TLC to be awarded for the total price of $4,029,148.46. Any further discussion? All in favor, vote by the sign of aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item L, deliberate and act on resolution 2026-19, transportation project funding application for the downtown Raton infrastructure project phase 2. Mr. Phillips.
Mayor and Commission, you may recall several years ago, we completed a CDBG project in downtown Raton that was the DRIP project, the Downtown Raton Infrastructure Project. At that time, it was a joint effort. Terry Sykes at the Raton Water Works General Manager at the time participated by jumping out and installing new water lines and services year in advance of our proposed project, and then we milled the existing concrete street and applied an asphalt overlay. Back then in the world, things cost considerably less. That was a $750,000 project on the city's behalf. I believe Raton Waterworks spent somewhere in the neighborhood of $400,000 to $450,000 on associated water work related projects. We have came forth with what will be DRIP Phase 2, which is a continuation of this, heading south. Same basic project, only this time water lines and everything would be wrapped up in this grant application. Visited with some members of the water department in advance of this application, and I believe there's an appetite where we could get the Raton Waterworks to at least half our match of the 140, since a lot of the infrastructure would be theirs, making it palatable in an era of tough gas tax, in an effort to, keep expectations low. I would say this is a long shot application. It's a lot of dollars in an application cycle where I already have a lot of commitment out of this program. So it may simply be not our turn this time, but in the event that they found it favorable, I think this would be a worthwhile project. The streets that we're talking about are actually literally pavement assessment district number 1 in the city of Raton. They are old concrete that was cured for 28 days under burlap, and some of the finest constructed streets I've ever seen, but they are now in advance of 100 years old. So it's time to do it. I have no expectation that my project will precede me by 100 years. Materials just aren't the same. But if you all are so inclined, I do believe it is a worthy project, and it would be a strong grant application.
So we're talking Clark, Park, Cook.
Yeah, 3rd Street in that rate. Anything that is 3rd Street primary that's in concrete, and then the abutting avenues for the 1 block. It's kind of hit or miss. I want to say Rio Grande is 2, Clark is 1. Right now I'm trying to figure out where I left off with, and I want to say Park was already done on this block, so it's probably everything south of.
And the intention is take the concrete and base course asphalt.
No, we do the same thing as last time, which was the first time we've done it, and it looks like it's holding up well. We would directional bore water lines in, tie over services generally behind curb, and then we would mill 2 inches of asphalt or 1.5 inches of asphalt off, put a geotextile fabric down to bridge between the 2 dissimilar materials, and then asphalt pave it.
Do we run into issues with the phone company's switching mechanism? I know there's fiber optic in that street on Cook and.
We probably do with multiple utilities, so generally we would have to raise and lower fiber. I want to say there's probably a couple gas wells in
Schuster
area.
has joined.
We also have, of course, some water and storm sewer and storm drain infrastructure in there, so we would end up with the same final grade. So ultimately, we'd mill around them, pave to them, and there'd be some handwork, but nothing substantial in a utility road location.
Okay.
Any further comments or questions from the commission? Entertain a motion on item L, the grant application.
I move we approve resolution 2026-19, transportation project funding application for downtown Raton infrastructure project phase 2.
I'll second.
Motion and a second to adopt resolution 2026-19. Any further discussion? All in favor, vote by the sign of aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item M, deliberate and act on Blue Sky Upfitting LLC quote for the upfitting of 3 Raton Police Department vehicles utilizing state price agreement 2000000021000030. Mr. Phillips.
Mayor and Commission, in front of you, you have a proposal for the outfitting of these vehicles. Michael, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this is law enforcement protection funds that are earmarked for such a purpose to return 3 patrol vehicles to the streets.
Thank you,
I would
Mr. Phillips.
recommend the approval.
Thank you,
Sorry.
Mr. Phillips. You can. Any comments or questions from the commission?
The 14 grand, that's per vehicle or all 3?
That is, sounds way too steep for me.
It looks like 2
So,
Ford Expeditions.
that looks like that's for the Expedition, and 21,000 for the truck.
It looks like the Expeditions might be 2, because it was 2 times.
The first quote is for 2 Expeditions, and then there's I'm assuming maybe a Ford Explorer. Is it
It looks like an F-150.
I think they own an F-150.
Yeah, they replaced that Dodge that was wrecked. Cause that,
Actually, the
No.
2023 PIU is a police interceptor unit. That's similar to the vehicle that I drive in the parking lot. It's no longer called an Explorer. And the 2 Expeditions, Michael, and correct me if I'm wrong, but these are the old command vehicles being retrographic to return to the fleet. So prior to the purchase of the Tahoes, we had the 2 Expeditions that were administrative units, and those will be turning into regular patrol units. Same, I believe, with, I want to say the 2023 PIU was maybe same situation.
okay, so most of the radio equipment is just, it's remaining, it's not being.
Right, and if I remember right, the Expeditions probably have a lot of this already in them. They're upfitted. I don't think that the 2023 has actually came out of Armex and onto the street yet, so it probably has full sirens and light packages.
I don't know why I thought that thing was a 150.
They still have the Dodge Ram, it just had damage and was sent to that auto body recently and was fixed.
Any further comments or questions for the commission? If none, I would entertain a motion for item M.
I recommend approval of the Blue Sky Upfitting LLC quote for the upfitting of 3 Raton Police Department vehicles utilizing state price agreement 20-00000, 21-00030.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second for the approval of the upfitting from Blue Sky. Any further discussion? All in favor, please vote by the sign of aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item N, deliberate and act on Converge One Inc. Solutions summary quote for Raton Police Department temporary command posts during the City Hall Foundation repair project. Mr. Phillips.
Madam Mayor and Commission, as you're aware, we've awarded the project for the City Hall stabilization, where they will be drilling underneath the foundation and lifting the slab. The bulk of that work is taking place on the PD side of the building. Originally, we had thought we could work through the construction kind of seamlessly, but then we got the email that we would be needing to cover up consoles because of dust and such, and it became obvious that we can't run a 24-hour dispatch center with consoles covered up to protect them from debris, and the expense of risking losing any of the equipment was too great to bear. April reached out, Department of Finance and Administration has indicated that this is kind of a routine occurrence for dispatch centers, and that there are temporary command post units out there that we would get in for a situation just like this, and that they in fact have a reimbursement program. So we would approve this tonight. When that point of construction occurs, we would mob in this temporary command post. I believe it would be located here at City Hall. It would seamlessly transition our dispatch and 911 capabilities to this portable unit until we complete construction. And then we would subsequently request reimbursement from DFA's 911 Bureau to pay for those costs. So it ultimately, I believe, will not cost the city any money, but it will allow us to continue to operate seamlessly during this project.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips. Comments, questions from the commission? I'd just like to commend April for reaching out, because this is a great way to use state money in a really positive way to have a new solution for us during the construction.
Absolutely.
It makes it look seamless.
If there are no comments or questions, I would entertain a motion on item N.
I'll move we approve Converge One Inc. solution summary quote for Raton Police Department temporary command post during the City Hall Foundation repair project. Second.
I have a motion and a second for item N. Any further discussion? All those in favor, vote by the sign of aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item O, deliberate and act on resolution 2026-20 fiscal year 26 budget adjustment number 9. I believe this item is to be postponed. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, yes, we would like to postpone this item.
We have a motion to postpone item O.
I will move we postpone resolution 2026-20 fiscal year 26 budget adjustment number 9.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to postpone resolution 2026-20. Any further discussion? All in favor, vote by the sign of aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Commissioner Schuster, you're not opposed, are you? I'm sorry, there was a little lag and I didn't wait.
Yeah, no, sorry, I said I agree, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you,
I'm
Commissioner.
an aye.
It's hard with the lag time. Thank you. Item P, city manager.
Sorry.
No, you're good. Thank you for being on the phone. Item P, city manager report. Mr. Phillips, our
Mayor,
deputy city
Commission.
manager report.
My bulk of it was gonna be fire, and we're gonna come out early, and not in any way to poke any fun, but you know, we hear a lot of talk about the threat to our water resources being this hypothetical or perhaps proposed data center. The reality is, the largest threat to our water supply we are experiencing right now, and it is just as equally likely to happen at our secondary source as well. I think it's important that, you know, the public and the commission learn lessons from the past in regard to wildfire, and we place lobbying efforts at having quicker response times, community partners that are more actively engaged. You know, there's no reason, in my opinion, with the state of New Mexico having an all-time surplus of revenues, that we don't have air assets able to go and put out fire at first smoke. But we get on these things and we hear things about fire ecology and beneficial fires, and it's a lazy fire. And I think Commissioner Campbell and I both agree that any fire in the watershed is no fire that we want. And I think with the amount of resources in this state, that there should be a way to, within a couple hours of a notified lightning strike, be able to get these things out. Our guys do the best we can, but whether we're talking the Eagle Nest water supply and a vastly unburnt, no burn scar, high-risk area, or our twice burnt watershed here, the advent of modern technology, cameras, monitoring systems, and communication systems have to be brought to the forefront. I mean, right now we're struggling to communicate with our fire chief. Luckily, there is a Starlink system up there that allows for Wi-Fi calling, but even at my former tower site that on Raton Pass with 3 known cell carriers, including AT&T's FirstNet system, there are no phone calls in emergencies. By the time we're driving 20 miles round trip to communicate what information we have back to town, and you know, I know all of us like to go up and get away from it all when we get to the lake, but just from an emergency standpoint, we've got to find a way to get better with this. On a brighter note, construction has begun on the North Underpass Rehabilitation Project and the Railroad Avenue Bridge Replacement Project. Tyler Davis from Engineering Analytics has begun sharing project updates with the public. At times, the North Underpass may be closed for up to 2 weeks to replace concrete sections and storm drain manholes. This will undoubtedly be a pain to all residents and travelers, as there are very few viable alternate routes. We'll attempt to minimize the closures, but to properly cure concrete, these closures are going to be inevitable. So we've got some storm drain manholes smack dab in the middle of the 2 lanes. If you saw today, we're running a flagger trying to keep 1 lane open, but there's some point in this when we're painting a bridge or working on slabs that penetrate both lanes that we're going to have to just hard close and stay closed until it cures. We'll try to get that out there. I've asked Tyler to be, really good about getting the word out, but it's just painful, and we know people are going to be upset. It's going to be rough on EMS. It's going to be rough on police. It's going to be rough on my department, but it just has to happen. Sometimes you got to break some eggs to make an omelet. Tonight we awarded the South Second Reconstruction Project. The contractor has indicated that they desire to begin work right away. This project will have minimal impact on traffic with single lane closures, wheelchair ramp replacement, concrete curb and gutter. Those make up the bulk of this project. There is some concrete and asphalt patching that will necessitate occasional lane closures, but it'll be 1 lane at a time where you can go around. We've got one of the most robust construction seasons upon us. Work will begin on Romero Park renovation next week. We accepted a giant load of wood mulch that's going to go underneath the playground structure. My crews will begin excavating out pea gravel, installing weed barrier, putting the wood mulch, and we've already taken shipment of our new playground structure features that will be used to augment the old structure at Romero Park. In addition, as part of our Clean and Beautiful grant, we received 20 new Parks Tights trash cans yesterday. So we'll start getting it out there the best we can, but it's going to be an extremely busy time. Hopefully we can see a lot of results. I think we've got a lot of positive things going on streets and parks, but there's some tough days ahead before we get there. And that is all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips.
Thank you.
Since we will be going into executive session, is there anything further from the commission? Commissioner Hoger?
No.
Commissioner Campbell? Mayor Pro Tem Honeyfield?
I had one comment to Jason. If there's any possibility of leftovers regarding the weed stop and wood mulch, you think we could address the dog park thing?
I will speak candidly of the dog park and make myself as unpopular as ever, but I don't disagree with the assertions made about the quality of the dog park. Although it predates me, I believe there were differing views on who was going to maintain the dog park. Had that proposal and that location been presented to me, I would have adamantly asked you to say no to it. Can it be brought back from the dead? Getting goat heads out of the 180 acres at Railroad Park and some of the worst soil conditions, I would just be lying to say I thought it improved. I would also be doing a disservice to my department if I said, build a dog park and I can take care of it up to the standards that people won't be on Facebook calling the next one just as terrible as this one, because when you have a parks department with 2 employees, 4 ball fields, 180 acre park at Roundhouse, and 5 city parks, there are promises I'm just not willing to make and risk my reputation on, and that dog park is the best of intentions. Everybody had it, but I do not have the means and methods to keep it in good shape, and even if you put an AstroTurf, just the simple removal of feces alone we'd end up in the same boat. That's just the honest truth of person who would have to do that task.
Anything further? Oh, sorry.
How do we go about removing that dog park from our website? That seems like an easy.
I think it's
Desiree and I had a sidebar where neither of us were aware that we were the owner of the Google page, and we've been around for a long time, so.
So it sounds like it's not a website issue, it's a Google listing issue.
It's a Google
So we'll
list
have to figure out how to own
that
that.
no one that I know created or maintained.
Commissioner Schuster?
I think that was Patricia with CCI, so I think that's who's got the webpage. And, the contract we have for the Google ads.
That is a potential that they could have claimed that as an owner, but if we can, reach out to them.
No, and, I mean, and.
See if they own it.
None of those statements were inaccurate, and it's embarrassing to me. I drive by it on the way to my shop, but we've cleared it out, brought in heavy equipment, back dragged it. We've applied herbicide, even though that's not really what you want to do in a dog park. There are battles you can win and battles you can't, and I've conceded defeat to that dog park.
Thank you, Mr. Hobbs.
Thank you.
Well, because I was gonna say, if you figured that one out, I think Longfellow School would want to talk to you.
Anything further, Commissioner Schuster?
No, thank you.
Thank you. And nothing from me, so with that, I would entertain a motion for item Q, executive closed session pursuant to section 1015-1H2, personnel, city manager.
I shall move pursuant to section 10-15-1H2, personnel, city manager, that we enter closed session.
A second.
I have a motion and a second to go into executive closed session pursuant to the statute mentioned. Any further discussion? Madam Clerk, can we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Yes, Madam Mayor, sorry. Mayor Chatterley?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Honeyfield?
Yes.
Commissioner Schuster?
Yes.
Commissioner Campbell?
Yes.
And Commissioner Hoger?
Yes.
Okay, this meeting is going to be closed, in which case we will take a short recess.
Madam Mayor.